In today's video, we are going to discuss NCERT solutions of the chapter Some Basic Concepts of Chemistry. So the first question for the day is question number 19, and the question says, how many significant figures are present in the following? And we have a list of 6 numbers. We have to calculate the number of significant figures in this. So first, let us try to understand what are the rules that we use to identify the number of significant figures. We have a set of 5 rules to help us determine the number of significant figures. So the rules I have stated here. The first rule says all non-zero digits are significant. Consider this number 285. Here all these numbers are numbers which are other than 0. So we can say 2, 8 and 5, all these are significant figures. So we have a total of 3 significant figures. This is what the rule number 1 says. Let us see what rule number 2 says. Rule number 2 says zeros preceding to first non-zero digit are not significant. Consider this number, that is 0.03. Here we have zeros that are preceding, means ahead of the number, to first non-zero digit, that is this 3. So they are not significant. That means this 0 and this 0 are not significant because these are the zeros which are preceding this non-zero digit 3. So these both are not significant. So we have a sum total of 1 significant figure. Rule number 3 says zeros between 2 non-zero digits are significant. Consider the number 2.005. According to this rule, the zeros, that is these two zeros, between two non-zero digit, so here we have 2 and 5, are significant. That means these two zeros are significant and we should count it. So here we have a total of 4 significant figures. Now rule number 4 says zeros at the end or right of a number are significant provided they are on the right side of the decimal point. To understand this, let us take the example of 0.200. So here we have two kinds of zeros. One zero which is over the left side and next 2 zeros over the right side. It is clearly stated in the rule that zeros at the end or the right are significant. That is, these two zeros are significant and this zero is not significant. So we have a total of 3 significant figures for this number 0.200. Now the last rule says counting number of objects. For example, 2 balls or 20 eggs have infinite significant figures. That is, when we are talking about 2 balls or 20 eggs, we can write it as 2.00000 in infinite number of zeros. So we can say it has infinite significant figures. Similarly, this 20 can also be written as 20.0000, infinite number of zeros. So we have infinite number of significant figures in such cases. So these are the 5 rules which helps us in determining the number of significant figures. Now let us try and solve the questions that are given to us. The first question here is 0.0025. So here we know these two zeros are preceding to the first non-zero digit and they are not significant according to the rule number 2. So here we can say we have a sum total of only 2 significant figures because these two zeros are not significant according to rule number 2. So we have 2 significant figures. Now the next question is 208. Here we have 0 which is in between two non-zero digits, hence this 0 is significant. So we have 3 significant figures because the 0 which is in between this 2 and 8 and this 2 and 8 are significant. So we can say this 0 is also significant. This is according to rule number 3 and we have 3 significant figures. Next is similar to question number 2 where we have 2 zeros in between two non-zero digits. So here we have these 2 zeros are significant and a sum total of 1, 2, 3, 4 significant figures. This is also obeying the rule number 3. Now in the next question we have 3 zeros. We already know that the first 3 numbers, they are non-zero digits, so they are significant. Now the question comes in the case of these 3 zeros. So from the rule number 4, we know that the zeros that are at the end or right of a number are significant only if they are on the right side of the decimal point. Now we know that this is a comma, not a decimal point. These three zeros, even though they are on the right side of the number, but they are not on the right side of the decimal point, so we can't count these three numbers as significant. So these three will be non-significant. Hence, this number will have a total of 3 significant figures. This 1, 2 and 6 accounts, and so we have a total of 3 significant figures. Let us come to the next question. Here we have 5 and 3 zeros. 5 is a significant figure. Now comes to these 3 zeros. Here we have all these 3 zeros are significant because they are coming to the right side of the significant figure and there is a decimal point on the right side. So we can count these 3 zeros are significant, so we have a total of 4 significant figures. Now, in the last question, we have 2.0034. Definitely we have this 2, 3 and 4 are significant. Now, in the case of these zeros, according to rule number 3, zeros between two non-zero digits, that is 2 and 3, are significant. So, this 0 and this 0 can be counted as significant. So, here we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 significant figures. So this is how we answer these questions. Let's move ahead with the next question. Question number 20 says, round up the following up to 3 significant figures. And we have 4 questions. So the first question we have 34.216. We know from the previous question we have already learned what are significant figures, what are the rules that we follow to determine the significant figures. So with that information, we can say in this number, we have 5 significant figures because all these are non-zero digit. So all these are significant. Hence we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 significant figures in this. Now, the question here is to round up this 5 significant figures into 3 significant figures. So here, we should be aware of how to round up the numbers and how do we determine the significant figures. Now, let us try solving this first question. Now, since we need only 3 significant figures, let us easily avoid this last significant figure, that is 6. Now coming up, if we are avoiding this 1, according to the rule of rounding figures, we know that when we have a number which is less than 5, we keep the number as itself, and when it is more than 5 or 5, we add 1 to it. That is how we eliminate number. Here when we are avoiding this 1, we have 2 which is less than 5, we keep that 2 as 2 itself. So we have this number rounded as 34.2. Now we have 3 significant figures in this, 3, 4 and 2. So that's how we do the first question. Let us move ahead with the next question. In this, we already know that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 significant figures. Both the zeros are significant. Hence, we have a total of 6 significant figures. Now, let us round it off to 3 significant figures. Let us avoid the last significant figure and the second last. And when coming to this number, when we are avoiding this, here we have 4 which is less than 5, so we keep that 4 as itself. Hence we have 10.4. Now let's check whether this number is having 3 significant figures. We can say both this 1 and 4 are significant because they are non-zero digit, and this 0 because it's coming in between 2 non-zero digit, hence the 0 is significant. So we have 3 significant figures. Let's move ahead with the next question. In this question, we have 4, 5, 9 and 7 are significant, and note these 2 zeros because according to the rule number 2 of how to determine the significant figure, we have learned that zeros that are preceding to the first non-zero digit, that is these 2 zeros, are not significant. Now, let us try to round it off to 3 significant figures. Here, let us eliminate the last significant figure. And when we are doing this, we know that this is 9 which is more than 5. So we are adding 1 to it. So it becomes 0.0460. We have converted this 59 into 60. Now let us check the number of significant figures. We already know that these two zeros are not significant, and we have this 4, 6 and 0 are significant. Hence we have a total of 3 significant figures. This 0 is significant because this 0 is coming at the end or right of a significant number, and that too there is a decimal point. So we can count this 0 as significant. So we have a total of 3 significant figures. Now in the last question, we know all these 4 numbers 2, 8, 0 and 8 are significant. Now we have to round it off to 3 significant figures. Let us eliminate the last significant figure, that is 8. So we get 280. In this we know that this 0 is insignificant because this is at the end. So we have only 2 significant figures. We have to round it off to 3 significant figures. So how do we do that? Let us take the 0 to the next number, that is 1. So we have 2810. And we know that 2810 is close to 2808. And we have 3 significant figures, that is this 2, 8 and 1. The 0 is again insignificant. So we have a total of 3 significant figures. So this is how we round off these numbers to the nearest 3 significant figures.